What is up, Waffle Gang? I do hope you are well. My name is Mark, and today we're covering some more r/am I the butthole. If you'd like to skip the initial waffle, timestamps are in the description and along the timeline below. But if you are new here, please consider hitting that like, that subscribe, and maybe that notification bell too, as it all really helps out our channel. Now, just a huge thank you for taking the time out of your day to be here. As always, it's absolutely incredible level support, and I can't thank you enough for what you do. So thank you, and please keep just doing you. Let's crack on with today's stories. Much love, guys. Now, our first story comes from a throwaway account. Am I the arsehole for not letting my son into my house after he tried to sell it to pay for his mum's surgery? My husband, who's deceased, and I adopted our son since he was 2. We gave him a beautiful name, moved into a new house with spacious backyard. We were happy to have him in our lives. We were open with him about his past. At 4, we told him that he was adopted. We took care of everything, but at 16, he started behaving strangely. We thought he was just being a teenager, but he treated me and his father poorly, blaming us for taking him from his real mother. He said that all the time. He distanced himself from me and stopped calling me mum. That broke my heart. It's been years. He's also changed his name, saying he wanted to have a say, and that I had no right to give him his old name just because he was adopted. He'd argue with us for no reason, telling us we had no business in knowing anything about him because he isn't our son. I had no idea why he acted like that. We were always there for him. We paid for his college and he left at 19, saying he wanted to go to his real family and cut contact. My husband and I tried to text, call. His dad passed away last year. He didn't even visit me. I was dealing with grief. This was my first Christmas without my husband. I tried to reach out but was at a loss since he wouldn't talk, text, or see me. My family told me to let him go for now, that he had come round eventually, but my heart was crying just to speak with him or see him. He met some of his birth family and had no connection to them. He couldn't develop a relationship with his aunts or uncles because of how they treated his mother. He never got invited to cookouts or parties. He decided to stick with his biological mum, who's dealing with a medical condition. He visited me a month ago and told me all of that. He talked about his mother's illness and asked me to help. I was taken back after he told me he came back because he wanted to. He suggested that I sell the house to help pay for his mother's surgery. Suggested that I live in an apartment instead. I was shocked. I told him no. This is not my problem, and this house is all I have left. He argued with me, said hurtful things like how I'm refusing to help out of spite and that I wanted his mum out of the picture. He said that I can't keep him away from his mother, and I'm not keeping him away, but he was out of line to tell me to sell my house and help him out. I eventually kicked him out after he hid documents that belonged to the house and tried to get me to sell it. I haven't heard from him until last week. My family contacted me saying my son wants to see me. I refused to let him into my house. I argued with my family when they betrayed me for treating him like that. I explained what happened and they said that I should consider helping him if I want a relationship with him since he came back. I refused to help, especially after how he acted. But he's now talking to my family, making it seem as my fault. To me, it feels like there's missing a lot of information in this story. I'm not totally sure, but there's a lot of questions down below, so we're going to head straight to them with Hear Too Much saying, not the arsehole. If your family feels so bad for him and his mum, they can sell their homes and help her. An admirable judgment says, clearly not the arsehole, this part bothers me, and quotes, I eventually kicked him out after he hid documents that belonged to the house to try and get me to sell it. Where is the deed to your property? Check with your county property records to be sure there has not been some sort of title hanky-panky. One of my cousins had her house sold out from under her by her son. Talked to a lawyer about this ASAP. They said that I should consider helping him if I want a relationship with him since he came back, and then says they can help him if they feel that close to someone who abandoned the parents who raised him. And Yana says, not the arsehole, he changed his name and swore you off. Now he demands you to help him after all the ungratefulness. Please do be careful. Desperate people can do some crazy things. And Pear says, info. You told him he was adopted when he was 4. Are you leaving something out? What was your relationship like? It sounds like a switch was flipped at 16. What was he like as a child? Without more info, I'm leaning towards missing reasons. And Smartass Mouth says, not the arsehole, he was acting strange since 16 years old and is trying to sell your house. It doesn't make sense. Honestly, I'd meet with both your son and this woman and get a DNA test done to ensure this woman is who she says she is at the least. And then Chilean Fruit Lover replies to that saying, reading that changed so much out of the blue. No way, something is missing here. It seems like he could have been manipulated on his teenage years into thinking that they took him away from his mum. Otherwise it makes little to no sense. And Clarice 1984 says, not the arsehole, guarantee you once he got the money, you would never see him again. You have to protect yourself and your home. If you could hide important documents, what else would he be willing to hide or steal? If your relatives buy a story about the woman who gave birth to him needing surgery, I don't, they can sell their houses for it. His lack of relationship with you is his choice and out of your control. Who tells someone given to a selfish manipulator's demands so you could potentially have a relationship with him? Just pay whatever price he charges for the privilege. Relationships can't be bought. If he wanted to reconnect, he'd be apologetic and humble, not acting like you're the one who owes him. Stand firm and don't let him in the house. Make sure you have copies and electronic backups of all documentation. If there's a chance he still has a key, change the locks. Might want to install a security camera. I'm so sorry you lost your husband. You don't deserve to be treated this way. You certainly don't have to cater to him, sacrifice your home, and make life harder on yourself. Now, I turn this one to you guys. What do you guys think of this situation and how would you deal with it? What questions would you have about this story too? Let me know in the comments below. And our next story comes from, am I the arsehole for leaving? Am I the arsehole for walking out during a double date because the other couple was making me uncomfortable? My husband, 24 male, and I, 24 female, haven't been suffering from the pandemic too much, but we've missed our friends. One couple, May, 22 female, and April, 26 female, seems to have been missing us too. May has constantly been texting me that they're bored and miss us, so we decided to self-quarantine for 2 weeks on both sides to have a double date. It was tense from the beginning. Apparently May had gotten bleach on April's expensive dress, which she kept making passive-aggressive remarks about. I thought it was a non-issue until April spilled her wine all over May's dress, and when I went to help her clean it, she said April was trying to get even. Everything calmed down for a good hour until April started talking about their sex life and how May never puts out. So humiliating. And May says to my husband, I bet you never have that problem, and I was in shock. April laughed it off before telling us what a slut May is. She kept insulting her even though my husband and I were telling her to stop, and eventually May just started crying. It got too intense for me and I had to go outside. My husband followed me out and we just ended up driving off. Last night he told me how guilty he felt just leaving May there to be insulted instead of really doing anything about it, but we both felt like we needed to remove ourselves from the entire situation. April has texted me since saying everything is fine and the quarantine has really been getting to them, but they worked it out. I still feel guilty for leaving and so does my husband. I honestly feel like I abandoned May and there's part of me thinks that I did it because she hit on my husband, which makes me feel so petty and disgusting. I try to apologise but she won't answer my calls or text me back. Am I the arsehole? Absolutely not the arsehole in this situation. If someone was doing that to me and making me feel uncomfortable, yes, I walk out of situations like that. I don't put up with people's nonsense. And I'm not saying like this issue is total nonsense because it might be a lot more serious than what we're actually thinking, right? So you're 100% not the arsehole for doing what you did in this situation, but I would maybe just reach out to May to make sure she is actually okay. You know, we see it time and time again in these stories where there's something going on in the background. And I'm not saying there is, and I'm not trying to blow it up to like huge levels or whatever, but there is that little chance. And I say this because May was the one that reached out to you and saying they're bored and missing you. So it could be like a cry for help maybe. Again, I might be going too far with that, so forgive me if I am. But you know, it doesn't hurt to reach out and say, how you doing, May? Is there anything you want to talk about? Just putting that out there, that's all. But Simply Living says, not the arsehole, April was being absolutely insufferable and you aren't required to suffer through it if you don't want to. I will add, April texted you saying everything was fine, but she seemed to have been the one who was crossing the line in some pretty major ways. I'll check in on May. If this is how April treats May in the presence of other people, what kind of insane arsery is going on behind closed doors? I'm concerned May could be the victim of abuse. I could be wrong, but if I were you, I'd at least want to check on it. And Word Preparation says not the arsehole, however, it definitely sounds as though May is being abused, at least verbally. If this were a man saying these things to his wife, I think there would be a lot of people calling it out. Please continue to check on May and let her know she has a safe space with you to talk about anything. And Crucifictorious says, so not the arsehole. Sorry you quarantined for 2 weeks just to get exposed to toxic behaviour. You absolutely should have left. They sound really immature. And a deleted user says, are you sure May was hitting on your husband? Because my first thought is that isn't being hit on. It's creepy and inappropriate depending on your relationship, and my next thought is that she's potentially hitting on you by saying to your husband that she bets he doesn't have a problem of his partner not putting out. But either way, not the arsehole. April sounds potentially abusive. Talk to May and see how she feels. She's a 22-year-old. LGBT female in a global pandemic with a huge economic issues. She may feel like she has nowhere else to go. And DNJ Prod says, not the arsehole. First, if you're uncomfortable, it is understandable for you to leave. Second, April and May's relationship isn't yours to meddle in. If May didn't want to be treated like that, they would leave. You didn't leave her to be insulted, as your presence didn't stop the insults despite multiple requests. Leaving sent a clear message that you are uncomfortable and that the behaviour was unacceptable. Now, I turn this one to you guys. What do you think is going on in this relationship? Do you think there is more to it in this situation? Let me know in the comments below. And our next story comes from Short Huckleberry 372. Am I the arsehole for telling my husband if he doesn't come home at a decent time not to come home? I've been married to my husband for 4 years. Things were great up until this year where we made at least 1 day a week to solely spend together. This year, however, has been a mess. We didn't really get to be locked down, as while he was home, he's back to work now, I was busy with my grandmother and my 2 younger sisters. I am my grandmother's caregiver, so I didn't have a choice but to happily continue to go over daily to care for her. With my sisters, the youngest, Ava, had issues after her youngest was born with health problems. I was taking care of her oldest while she was at the hospital and her husband worked. Finally, for the past 3 months, I had to help my other sister, Mary, after the birth of her child. She is a single mother with PPD. Here lately it's been worse as she has been hospitalised with postpartum psychosis. Sundays every week my husband goes to his parents for football. As you can imagine, this leaves little time for my husband and I as he works full time and only has the weekends off. For the past few weeks my husband and I have planned a day for just us as my birthday was yesterday. We weren't going to do anything fancy, just order ramen from a local shop and play video games all day. I 100% didn't want to deal with anyone else as I've been stretched so thin. I'm close to a breakdown. The day didn't start great. My sister was hospitalised again and she needed someone to pick up the baby and take her to our other sister. I told my husband plans would be on hold for about an hour or two. Things didn't go as planned and I ended up having to spend 2 hours speaking with CPS. I messaged my husband that he should find something to do as it could take a while. I didn't get home until 5 PM. My husband went over to his friend's house while I was gone. When I got home I let him know, and this is where the argument starts. He'd been drinking and wanted to finish up what he was doing with his friend. I was pissed. When he was with any of his friends and drinking, I'm lucky if he comes home before 3 AM. I snapped on him telling him it was my birthday and if he didn't come home at a decent time, not to come home. I locked the door and tried to fix my day. He ended up stumbling at 5 AM the next morning and I made him sleep it off in his car. He didn't drive, friend lives a block away. We're now in a huge fight because I was a bitch to him and wouldn't let him sleep in the house. Now there's a tiny paragraph of an update which we will cover after the comments. But according Pryor says, you're the arsehole. I get that the situations you are helping your family with are emergencies, but it sounds like he waited around the whole day to make himself available for your birthday until you told him to find something else to do. Now you're mad because he didn't hop to doing whatever you said when you said to. Also, telling someone not to come home and locking them out of their home is beyond not cool. You seem overwhelmed and it seems as if this was the last straw and you're taking it out on your husband. I definitely sympathise with you, but that wasn't fair. I feel like you should reach out to your friends or family because you can't be expected to handle it all indefinitely with no time off. And the AITA Kuna says, soft you're the arsehole, you need to speak to your family to set up a support system. Sounds like your husband waited all day for you, only to be told to entertain himself for a bit. Either way you acted hastily when locking him out and should consider apologising. An OP reply saying, unfortunately, I am the support system. I raised my sisters after our parents died, and the only other family we have is my grandmother. Ava is able to help occasionally from her in-laws, but I am all my grandma and Mary have. And girl number 3 says, everyone sucks here. A couple of reasons. First, it's your birthday. You're clearly going through a lot, and while pregnant. It just sounds stressful all around. The folks saying your husband wasted his day waiting and then wanted to do something, well, he didn't have to waste it. He could have been doing things at home to help you out for your birthday. Maybe stay at home and clean a little, or plan something to help you relax once you got home. There are a million sweet, selfless things he could have done to make your day special while he waited. It's not like you were just late for the fun of it. Also, to disappear and then not come back until 5 AM, I would be livid. You called at 5 PM, he could start drinking water and wait off the beer and be home at 7. Unfortunately though, it is his house and you really shouldn't lock him out of it, especially in the winter. Out of a bedroom, sure, but let him inside or it sets a nasty precedent for locking people out for whatever, and that sounds super awful and toxic. Good luck. And Rumhead says, you're the arsehole. This is double standards at its finest. You cannot lock someone out of their home because they didn't come home at a decent time. If you didn't kick off, he would have come home. He seems like he walks on eggshells, and to be honest, you should be making more time for him too, rather than your family. And OP replies once again saying, I make time for him every single Saturday. He spends that time getting drunk with the boys, stumbling in, breaking things because he can't walk and leaving a huge mess for me to clean, such as food or vomit. And then finally the update says, after typing everything out and after a drunken phone call from my husband, I've decided I'm not doing this anymore. I'm contacting a lawyer in the morning to start on a divorce. I may be the arsehole for what I did, but now he can stay with his parents and be an alcoholic he wants to be until they get sick of him and will kick him out. It will probably take them a while. It took me 13 years. Now, I turn this one to you guys. What do you think of this situation? Let me know in the comments below. And our next story is from Nessa Peralta. Am I the arsehole for overruling my husband's veto and inviting my mum to stay with us for 3 weeks after our baby is born? I'm currently 6 months pregnant with my first baby. My husband and I have been married for 3 years and have a happy marriage overall. With our baby coming in about 3.5 months, we're both nervous and excited as any new parents would be. We're reading books, watching YouTube videos, just trying to get an idea of what to do because most experience we have is holding/playing with babies for about 10 minutes at a time, lol, and then handing them back to their parents when they cry. The part I'm most nervous about is how awful the first month or so is going to be. My doctor says that I'm likely to be scheduled a C-section because of some health issues. I can't even begin to imagine how rough it's going to be. Recovering from a major surgery, recovering from labour/delivery, sleepless nights with a crying newborn, changing diapers, breastfeeding, pumping, hormones all over the place, etc. All for the very first time. I get awful headaches when I get less than 6 hours of sleep. I can't even imagine how bad it'd be in the first month. After the doctor told me that I am likely to be scheduled a C-section, I told my husband we absolutely need outside help at first. My husband was sort of against this idea. He said he would take on the bulk of the work. I know my husband, he's very responsible and follows through on his word, but he doesn't know babies. Neither do I. It's not like this is our third kid and we know what we're doing. We don't. I called my mum, who lives 2 hours away, and gave her the general updates. I told her I needed her help. For reference, my mum is the nicest person on the planet. Yes, my husband and my mum get along well, and loves being a mum and grandma. She proposed this. Yes, I can come help out. Here's what I think would be best. You and your husband watch the baby in the daytime. You focus on breastfeeding, pumping, and recovering from surgery. Your husband can focus on keeping the house in order and changing diapers, putting the baby to sleep, etc. And then I'll do nighttime duty. I'll slowly switch my sleep schedule so I can be awake at night, and hopefully if you're pumping enough, I can just feed the baby at night so at least you will both get a full night of sleep. This was heaven sent to me. I told her I needed to talk to my husband, but 99% yes, and oh my god, thank you so much, I love you mum. Fast forward to today, it's been a week of back and forth on this. We've had rational discussions, we've yelled, we've tried everything but neither will budge. My husband insists that having a third adult is suffocating, and trust me, I'll take care of the baby for everything besides breastfeeding. That's all you gotta do. But I feel like he's being really naive and I have to deal with the fallout. So yesterday, I said fuck it and told my mum yes. Obviously this led to a fight with my husband, who was upset because he clearly said no, but I went through it anyways. You know, I hate to say you're the arsehole, but you are the arsehole in this situation. Your husband is definitely saying he can deal with it, so let him deal with it. This is just screaming out to me that you have no trust for him. You don't trust his word. You said he's a reliable person. Let him try. I mean, what's the harm? That, he failed, and then maybe call your mum if you really need it. I think you're totally wrong to overrule your husband when he's so keen to give this a go and try for himself. He is the father. Come on. But Evhan says, this is your and your husband's child. You don't get to just decide. He doesn't get a say. You're the arsehole. And Chemical Parfait says, you're the arsehole. It is his home and his child as much as it is yours. It doesn't sound like you have any actual reason to think your husband won't be able to handle helping you. If you plan on breastfeeding and having someone do all the overnight feeds this early is a bad idea. You will become engorged, you will be in pain, you might develop an infection, could also lead to a baby that will only take a bottle. So you need to decide if you're okay with that. And I'm Not Daggett says, I'm sorry but you're the arsehole. I get it, I really do. I understand where you're coming from, but let me tell you 2 things. 1, do not let your mum do night shifts. This will negatively affect your breastfeeding, plus a bunch of other things. I know you'll be recovering, but your baby is awake during the night while you're pregnant and you need to be there while they need you the most. 2, your husband is basically saying this to you. I want to be there for my child and my wife. I want to prove to you, myself and everyone, that I can do this. I want to learn how to be the best dad I can be, because this is the most important job to me. I understand that you're scared, I understand that you're worried, but in this moment, you need to trust your husband. You're at the most vulnerable stage you've ever been in, besides childhood, and you need to allow the person you've chosen to be your life partner to do this for you and your child. Talk to your hubby again and ask him if your mum can come a few weeks after the baby is born instead. This will give you extra help and give your husband and you time to bond with your baby alone. This is so important for new parents. When your mum does visit, do not let her do any night feeds. Take as many naps as possible and expect that your baby will want you and only you for a while. And AlC2005 says, you're the arsehole. It's a huge sign that you don't trust him. Parents have been raising their first child on their own for eons. You can figure it out together. Giving your mum a quick call for advice on how to do something is completely okay and to be expected. Having your mum move in with you when your husband is not okay with it is not acceptable or good for your relationship. Also, you are aware that your baby is not going to be sleeping through the night in 3 weeks, right? You also won't be fully recovered in that time, so you are delaying the sleepless nights and increasing the tension between the two of you by having your mum over those first 3 weeks. Now, I turn this one to you guys. I know we have a lot of parents here. Tell me your thoughts on this one and what you think. Let me know in the comments below. Staring up a storm here, I think. Anyway, guys, thank you for being here today. I truly appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be here and listen to a story or two and just get involved with the channel. I love hearing what you're doing whilst you're listening, so please keep telling me. We've had some fascinating ones. We even had a lady in the comments below. I'm not going to reveal names, obviously, but they said that they was listening to a story once and it was about alternative medication for like asthma, a different type of medication basically, and it helped their son out, and it was like amazing. I know it's not, I never done that. It was obviously the story done that, but to have a positive influence was just incredible. Anyway, I'm waffling on again. I will see you guys in the next one. And if you do want to join, you can click that join button down below or head on over to Patreon, link in the description, and join in there. Thank you so much, guys, and I will see you soon. Much love. Goodbye.